Hi guys, so welcome to Crazy Burger. In this video, I'm going to be looking at one of the new announced carts for Evercade. It's the dual cart Alwa's Awakening and Cathedral. We're going to have a play on them as well. It will be the Nintendo Switch versions I'm playing, just for the record. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay guys, so here we have the dual cart, the first dual cart since Xenocrisis and Tanglewood. But is it as good as that cart was? Yep, it was only two games that we got in that cart, but they were absolutely cracking games. Are these two in the same league as Xenocrisis and Tanglewood? Let's find out. Let's have a look at some of the details before we actually play the games. So these games are relatively new. I think Alwa's Awakening is probably the older of the two, and they've been available on Steam and a lot of other platforms as well, like Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and PlayStation. But yeah, I think the Cathedral is probably the game that was out in 2020. That's the youngest game. And also, there's a sequel for Alwa's Awakening called Alwa's Legacy. A little bit disappointed we didn't get that as well, because that would probably have made this cart completely unmissable. But I'm not sure if it's possible to get that on Evercade, whether it just might not be compatible. I do not know. But anyway, let's have a look at these two games. Um, Always Awakening is by Elden Pixels and Cathedral by December Born. Both are Swedish, and the interesting part here is that Cathedral is going to be the first commercially released native port for Evercade. That means it's been rebuilt specially to run on Evercade devices. So that's a really good news. It's kind of like a Metroidvania style game. I kind of see them more as a kind of a platform adventure RPG style games rather than Metroidvania. It's just really a sort of moniker that they've been sort of tagged with, I guess. So I was awakening. Obviously, you can look at the graphics. They do look like NES titles, sort of, but I have to stress they aren't actually NES titles. They weren't originally released on the NES or even like a NES style game. They were released on um, Steam to start with, but they were just sort of graphically designed to look like that, I guess, to give that retro feel. So I Was Awakening is kind of more of the RPG of the two. It kind of has RPG elements, but you have both kind of a games are a little bit like jump and fight and jump and slash with your sort of weapons that you have. And I guess you pick up more weapons as you go through. The Cathedral's probably the bigger of the game. Always an Awakening has about 10 hours of gameplay, and Cathedral is probably slightly bigger, maybe between 10 and 20. You might even get more gameplay out of it, depend. But both games are quite tricky to actually play. It says here Cathedral brings over 600 rooms with upgrades, there's bosses, and that's really quite interesting. Personally, I haven't just played the games. Cathedral's probably my more favourite of the two. It's probably just slightly different. It does look a little bit like a kind of Shovel Knight style game. And these will be on Collection 27, and they will be going for pre-order in July 29th. So that's just a few days away from the time of this video, and it'll release in October 2022. So without further ado, guys, let's get these games hooked up. It's going to be on the Nintendo Switch, but I don't think the versions will differ much to what's on the Evercade. But yeah, we're going to boot them up, and I'll play through them, and I'll give you my thoughts as we're playing. Okay, Alwa's Awakening. It kind of starts off typical RPG form. You've got a village, a land of Alwa, and it's been sort of invaded with an evil person, that type of thing. But you play a character called Zoe, who isn't actually from Alwa. She sort of gets brought from somewhere else, and she basically lands in this land of Alwa to sort of help free the village from this evil person, basically. And that's it. You get obviously a magic staff to start with, and you've got enemies and bosses that you need to sort of fight on the way. Plenty of secrets. It feels more like a platformy style adventure RPG style game. And obviously this is the opening sort of scene, but we'll probably sort of cut away from this and we'll jump straight to the gameplay. Okay, so the game starts off simple enough. You've got your jump button. The jump does seem a little bit floaty, so to speak, and you've got a weapon you can use to defeat some of the enemies. But this part really just helps you get used to the sort of level and how the game actually plays. You can see there I have some issues getting up the ladder. That's a kind of an occurring theme. You try to get off the ladder too quickly. You need to make sure you get to the very top before you get off, or you'll fall all the way back down again. A little bit of an annoyance, but it is pretty simple to pick up. You can see you've got your three hearts at the top, and you see I'm just about to pick up the first weapon of the game, which is your magic staff, and that is going to be really important to help you defeat your enemies, and obviously other things such as blocks that get in your way. I've not really quite worked out everything in the game yet, but so there are a lot of collectible stuff there. You obviously need to collect some gems. You can obviously pick up the hearts and replenish your health as you go. There are checkpoints here and there, but it's fairly straightforward so far, though don't be lulled, it does get pretty tricky. There's a lot of tricky jumping elements, there's a lot of trickier enemies that appear. Some enemies are just one hit kills, and there are a few here and there that are 2 hits, and maybe even obviously when you get to the bosses it'll be a lot more than 2 hits. So you can see when you get to this stage, the game is already kind of teasing you what you need to do, but you can't quite actually get there. So I'm assuming there's probably either going to be a double jump added at some point, or there's going to be an element where you can add a platform you can sort of use to sort of jump on to get to the trickier parts that you can't reach from the beginning of the game. So this is the in-game save points. Obviously in Evercade we have save states, but this is where you will save your progress in the actual game. Okay guys, so a little later in the game, this is obviously when things start to get a little bit trickier. You can see there's more obstacles put in your place, there's enemies firing at you that only activate when you get near them. And there's a lot of tricky sort of jumping elements. There's definitely a lot of back and forth over sections you've already been, which you're just a bit confused. There is a map to actually help you, but it does get a little bit confusing. You do end up going back and forth to places you've already been, and you end up getting a little bit lost sometimes. You can see here I'm still not got the double jump or the sort of facility to be able to go higher. You obviously get that later in the game eventually, but I think you need to find I think it's some gems or something you need to find to sort of help. There's a lot of keys that will help open doors to different sections, but yeah, exploration is probably the key here to get through these levels. Try and memorise them and where you've been. Obviously you can use the map, it is there within there, but you can die quite easily. You've only got 3 hits, so keep that in mind. You can see my death count is already building up. Obviously, after your death, you go back to the in-game save point. Maybe on the Evercade, it will probably take a little bit of frustration away if you utilise those save states, for example. But this section, you can also use these green blocks to avoid the spikes and avoid getting fired on with that sort of statue at the bottom there. But it's so far, I've really enjoyed this game. It's absolutely addictive stuff. It really is good. Some tricky jump elements here. You see the sort of blocks fall away. But I love this style of game. This is right up my street. It's not quite an RPG. Obviously, it's got those RPG elements, but it's a kind of a adventure RPG. And I love it. It's absolutely brilliant. I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm looking forward to playing this in Evercade. I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's just a shame we're not getting the sequel as well. I think that would have made the cart absolutely unmissable. But this is a good start. It's obviously a relatively new game. It's a new retro style game, which is definitely what I've always been wanting on the Evercade. I'd love to see much more of this style of stuff, where not everyone has played them, which is obviously a good thing. So as mentioned, there is a map that you can actually utilise when you press start or whatever button it is on the Evercade, but I'm not really sure how much it actually helps, to be honest. It looks a little bit confusing to me. You can see obviously with the skeletons there are the bosses that you eventually have to defeat. I think there looks like 4 of them in the game, but you obviously, to get there, you need to find the keys to unlock those sections, and you upgrade some things on the way. So there's a pretty big game on here, I guess. In terms of Evercade, we don't have a lot of massively in-depth games like this, so to be able to sort of get 10 hours out of the game, I guess, would be absolutely brilliant. I know there's obviously a lot of complaints, especially for me, that a lot of the indie games you could probably finish in half an hour to an hour, which really isn't great value for money at all. But pleasing to say that this one will definitely be reasonable value for money with 10 hours of gameplay. Obviously, the next game that we're going to play is even more. So for value for money, for game length, this is definitely a massive improvement on some of the Indie Heroes games that we have, for example. Okay guys, so moving on to Cathedral. So this game it plays a little bit similar, but it's definitely more action packed, and the controls of the character are definitely a lot more tight, and there's a lot probably more slashing with your sword. You obviously play this knight who has no recollection of how you got there. You just basically wake up as you see here, and that's it. You've got loads of hidden rooms, dungeons and towns. Make your way through 600 rooms, supposedly about 10 to 20 hours gameplay, which is absolutely amazing. So you really need to explore and do your thing, meet some bosses and try and defeat them. It's quite a tricky game. You can see it does look a little bit like a kind of Shovel Knight style sort of game. It's probably less RPG than Alwa's Awakening. It's more kind of a platformy adventure as well, more so than Alwa's Awakening. And this one is probably my favourite of the two. It definitely controls a lot better. I just prefer this one. I really enjoy it. Two amazing games, but I'll sort of shut up for a minute and let you watch some of this gameplay. It's such a cracking game. So here's my tip of the day: do not attack the bats and they will not attack you. As soon as you attack them, both of them actually home in and try to attack you. So if you can, just avoid them, they will leave you alone. But this game it's definitely tricky. There's a few sort of tricky jumping elements to it. As you can see here, it's not the easiest to try and utilise up these sort of looks like wind vents or something to make your way up the level. But it's such a great game. I really like this style of game. It's very cool. The graphics are very nice. Obviously they are meant to look like a NES title, even though they're not. It does sound like a NES game, funny enough, but I'm loving the style. The graphics are really nice and colourful, and this is basically for me, this is perfectly suited for the Evercade. I think this will be great when we actually get the Evercade EXP as well and get to play them on that new handheld. Probably getting released about, I think it should be the month or so after this is released, right enough, but I really can't wait. This game is absolutely fantastic, really good. So you can see at this point you can actually push down on the controller to sort of go down platforms. There's some tricky sort of skeletons that go across. These are 2-hit kills. Most things are 1-hit kill, but you've got a few 2-hit kills here and there, and obviously bosses again are a good few hits. There's obviously elements you can't quite reach. I'm pretty sure there's character upgrading available where you obviously get double jump and a few other things beside. You get upgrades to your sort of shield and your knight costume, your armour, sorry. Yeah, and honestly it's such a fun little game. It's very, very well designed. You've got a health potion you can see there that you utilise. I'm not sure what button it'll be in the Evercade, but you can obviously use that, and I think it replenishes 2 hearts. See on the top left hand corner you've got 3 hearts, and now we've upgraded our armour, which should help a little bit. As you can see, probably one of the first main challenges of the game is trying to avoid getting spiked to death with this constant spikes that keep coming down. It just keep going basically, don't stop. Actually I mucked up the first time and probably the second time as well, making it look a lot harder than it is. But yeah, as soon as you sort of hesitate and stop, you will probably get spiked to death. But you can see there's a sort of checkpoint in which you go back to if you actually die. On the Evercade you probably use your save states, I guess, so you don't go back too far. But I suppose if you want that authentic experience, you should maybe just use the in-game saves. But me being me, I probably won't. But yeah, this part is quite cool. I like the idea of it. And as you see, I've died again, so I'm making it look extremely difficult. I'm really just showing you what happens when you die, sort of. And just like that, easy peasy. That was not hard at all. And just when you think you're getting it easy, think again. Here comes boss time. So just before I refight the boss battle for the second 100th time, this is actually the menu system. You've got access to the map. I was just really looking at the different controls that you've got here. There's actually quite a lot. I was actually not clear on the Switch what button it was for the potion, the health potion, and it's actually right-clicking the right thumbstick in rather than the right shoulder button, which was kind of confusing me a little bit. Not sure why you would put it there, but it's going to be interesting to see what buttons the Evercade used to actually map to all of these. There's quite a lot of options here. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump back to that boss. Let's beat him. Honestly, it's only took me, I don't know, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay guys, so what's my final thoughts on this cart? So my first thoughts were it's really, really good. There's two fantastic games, and yeah, I do love the new retro style games. This is what it's all about for me. But the only question I have is really the value of these games. I actually picked these games up on the Nintendo Switch. They were both on sale at the time, admittedly, but I got them both for under £10. They do sell for a little bit more than that. I think one game's £10 and the other game's maybe £12, something like that. So it would probably cost you about maybe 20, probably a little bit less. So it kind of makes you wonder the value on an Evercade cart being £17.99 in the UK, for example. Is it really worth it? Okay, yep, it's going to be a physical copy. If you're going to try and pick up a physical copy of these games on the Nintendo Switch, it will probably cost you a little bit more. So the value sort of varies depending on how you look at it. But regardless of that, this cart, these two games are absolutely fantastic, and I think everyone out there is going to absolutely love them. If you've not got a Nintendo Switch, then the Evercade might be the probably best way to play these handheld, and I love playing these games handheld rather than on a sort of console or VS, for example. They are brilliant games. I don't know what else to say. They're absolutely brilliant. I'm looking forward to these coming out. I'm pretty sure these games are going to be extremely popular. It would be great if we got that sequel, to be honest, but if this is the shape of things to come, then we're in good shape. Obviously, we obviously want these big hitter games, but for me, I'm more than happy with this style of game. New games that maybe not a lot of people have played, and it's going to get an audience on the Evercade. So really looking forward to that. Once again, guys, thanks for watching our video today. Please like, subscribe, and we'll catch you again in the next one. Bye for now.